favorites. It's 4:30. I'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Judiciary and Law Committee Standing Committee of the Dunn County Board of Supervisors. Roll. Jim Zahns is absent, excused, work responsibilities have kept him away this afternoon. Otherwise, the other 4 committee members are here. I don't see Chairman Bartlett. Does anybody know if he's planning on attending? He's normally here. He's not here today. And then we have a number of staff members as well, who will introduce themselves at the appropriate time, and their names, most of them are on the screen if you're watching on Zoom. They're one of our thousands of loyal viewers. First order of business, approve the minutes of the June 28th meeting. Seems like a long time ago. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Supervisor Rudd, Vanderbilt in seconds. Any questions, comments, additions, subtractions?
Can you speak into the microphone a little bit more, please?
I can do that just like that. Does that work better?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of June 28th. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Public comment. I don't see any present. Who's running the meeting?
There was no public comment.
Thank you. President. Somebody speaker on. Okay. No. Yep. No. We'll see. Picking up myself here. Okay, much more better. Staff reports, CJCC. Sarah, do you have anything to add or?
Yes. Can you
Okay.
hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yes,
You're right in the room.
to add to my staff report, I was able to attend a WCA meeting last Thursday. And we were able to hear from the Von Briesen and Roper on the guidance on ARPA funds. So in particular, to the safety and public justice folks. So I do have some more detail that I'll put in next month's report that can be of assistance. We also reviewed some of the conference resolutions. So some of them are moving forward to the board of directors with WCA, and then others will be going to the further. And if they continue on, they'll be on the conference itself in September. So as I mentioned, I'll have a more detailed update next month, unless there's questions.
Questions for Sarah? Seeing none. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
District Attorney, Andrea. I saw her here a minute ago.
Yep, I'm on Zoom. The only thing I need to add is I was able to fill the part-time victim witness assistant position. The new hire started last week and I'm starting the training process.
Super. Questions for the district attorney? Seeing none. Everybody's eager to get back out and water their garden. Child support. Josie, do you have anything to add?
I do not, unless anyone has any questions.
We've got a ordinance change. Is that what that is?
Yes.
Yep, coming up a little bit later in the meeting, and we will address that then. Emergency management 911. I see Melissa is with us via Zoom. Do you have anything to add to your report?
Nope, nothing to add.
Nothing. Very good. Medical examiner, Marcy.
Hello, no, nothing to add.
Marcy has nothing. Boy, it's been a quiet week here in Lake Wobegon, I guess. Huh? Sheriff's office. I see Sheriff Big is with us.
I was just trying to come up with something to add, so I and entertain you guys for a while, but I guess I really don't have anything to add. Other than I'll elaborate on the state kind of pulling the rug out on us on state inmates. We're still kind of working through that right now on some possibilities. They haven't taken their state inmates out of our facility yet, and we're still being paid. We're actually at 11 inmates waiting to go to prison right now that they're still paying us the contract rate for. And St. Croix County's reached out to us with a possibility of housing inmates for them because they're 17 staff members short in their jail facility right now. I'm not even sure how they're remaining open other than they're pulling patrol deputies off the road to kind of cover some of their shifts in their jail, but they're probably going to have to start housing out inmates shortly. So we told them we'd be happy to oblige and house them to kind of replace some of that revenue that we were expecting from the state. But other than that, unless you have any questions, I guess I don't have any more to add.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any questions? Before we leave, I do want to congratulate Heather Pike and Rebecca Merrifield. Both participated in a WCA webinar this morning. It was, and forget the title, but it was Sheriff's Departments, a lot more than just busting crooks. And I tell you what, those two, again, everybody in America ought to watch these things. These are good people doing good work. They're smart, they're articulate. The kinds of things they're doing are just, undreamed of 20, 30 years ago, I think. And now you can almost see the savings to us as a county because of the changes that we've made in the way prisoners are handled in the jail, the way we address issues of mental health issues in situations. I couldn't have been more proud of them, I tell you, and they just did a fantastic job. And I did get a kick out of mentioning this a little earlier when Heather was asked about the budget for these programs. She said, gee, I don't know. That's not my job to worry about budget. I love that. I'm going to get a job like that. No, seriously though, I emailed both of them and told them what a good job they had done, and they make Dunn County proud. I can't say it any more than that. So thanks to the sheriff's office for that.
Yeah, they were a little reluctant at first, I think, when I kind of threw them under the bus to offer their service. But yeah, I was on that webinar this morning myself, and they did a fantastic job.
Do we have a copy, a recording of that by any chance? Because I would really like to play at least parts of that for the whole county board.
I think WCA was going to either put it on their website or they're sharing it somehow.
You're right. I would. I need to check it out, or Sheriff, you could. And I think maybe not their whole session, but a couple of clips from those played to the county board. I think is budget time.
Yeah, I think it'd be very beneficial.
Yeah. Yes.
They covered a lot of stuff that, I get, 5-10 minutes to give you an annual report that's stuff that you just can't even scratch the surface on. So.
And this is boots on the ground kind of stuff. These are the people that are,
right.
Frontline. Yeah. I have this hopefully. Courts.
Nothing really additional, I guess. Just Judge Smelter's retirement party is this Friday, and then the investiture for Judge Wagner and Judge Meyer is next Friday. So big things happening at the Judicial Center, and busy with files and transferring all of our cases to amongst all 3 judges at this point.
Saw that in your report. Looks like it's going to be an interesting few months.
Yes, and quite a few different staff members starting and moving around, so it's going to be busy.
Questions for Katie regarding the court? No? Very good. I appreciate all of the reports. Two items that I'm going to mention specifically, the budget summaries I think are useful in each report. And this actually comes up in the next item. We don't have anything under number 6. But number 7, I really like the idea that when a department has a legislative issue, that they include it in those reports as well. Because a lot of times these legislative issues are things that the county might want to take an official position on. Sarah was talking about the resolutions from WCA. Those come into the organization on a year-long basis. And all of those that are submitted to the WCA will come up at the business meeting at the convention in September. Ultimately, many of them will come before the board of directors as well. So if any department has legislative issues that they're interested in, that they've got a position on, and you want to include that either in your report or in item number 7, I think we're going to keep that on as a standard part of the agenda from now on. And we can, frankly, I think, depending on the nature of the item, whether it's just a discussion item or you'd like action, we can deal with it in either one of those areas. So I really like that, and I also appreciate the budget information. So thanks to all the departments for that. Any comments or questions about item number 7? Our legislative agenda for 2022 is getting put together right now as we speak. When is that meeting? Do we have that? That we talk about the legislative agenda. Is that August?
I do believe so.
I think so, right before the convention. All right, anything else on item number 7? If not, we'll move right along to item number 8. 8A, an ordinance regarding a fee change from the Child Support Agency. You had information in your packet regarding that, and I'm going to turn it over to Josie. And you can let us know how this has come about or
Sure.
where it's going.
So as part of the 2022 budget preparations, department heads were asked to identify areas of revenue that we're not currently taking advantage of. So this is the one area that the Child Support Agency could potentially bring in some revenue, but it would require passing an ordinance to charge fees. So my personal belief, and in talking to my colleagues in neighboring counties who already do this isn't going to fix our budget problems by any means, but it is a small source of revenue. So some of the things, if as we get into it, Attorney Nick Lang helped in drafting this, and it says that it's to go into effect immediately after approval by the board. I'm okay if it's not until January 1st of 2022. I'm also, we can discuss the actual dollar amount of fees. I just went with what some colleagues from around the state were already doing and mirrored what they're doing. So I guess the long and short of it is the Child Support Agency is the word known as the 4D program. We exist, the enforcement agency exists under Title 4D of the Social Security Act. So there are people in Dunn County who have court orders that the Child Support Agency is not actively involved in the enforcement of. Okay, so those are called non-4D cases. There are still items of work that one of my staff particularly has to do. So when the clerk of courts sends us over a copy of an order on a non-4D case, she loads that order into our KID system. She sends out income withholding to the employer if we know who the employer is. Okay. If the attorney calls and says, oh, we have a hearing next week, we want a certified payment record to enter as an exhibit. We provide those things currently without charging a fee. But because of that non-4D work that my fiscal clerk does, we do not get the full 66% match reimbursement on her salary and fringe benefits like the feds give us on my other staff. So by charging the fees, it will help offset what we're not getting in reimbursement from the federal government for the fiscal clerk's salary and fringe, if that makes sense. And it's a complicated formula. We also don't get all of our, office supplies, paper, printing, postage, because it could be used for non-4D work. Okay. So why I don't think it will result in a huge windfall of money is because case participants have choices. So if the payer were to show up at our office and say, it's easy for me when this comes right out of my paycheck, I'd like you to send an income withholding to my employer. And we say, okay, that'll be $35. And if that person says, well, I don't want to pay that, what else could I do? Well, you can send a check to the trust fund on your own. And if they do that every month, they don't need us to send an income withholding. That makes sense. If the recipient of monies shows up and says, I'm not, getting these payments frequently and regularly, can the agency send out an income withholding? Sure, that will be $35. Well, I don't want to pay that. What are my choices? Well, they can figure out how to send an income withholding on their own. I'm sure there's a way. I don't know how, but I'm sure there's a way for lay people to do that. Or for free, they can fill in an application for our services, and it would convert their case from a non-4D to an enforcement case, and it would go on a case specialist caseload. Why some people are hesitant to apply for services of the agency, even though it's free, is you don't get to cherry pick the services you get from the agency. Once it's an enforcement case, it's an enforcement case. So that means if there's a debt, it's now certified for state tax intercept, federal tax intercept. It opens you up for license suspension, passport denial, account seizure, all the things we do. And so some people are like, well, I don't want all of that. All right, then $35, right? So that's how that would work. As far as payment records go, there are options for people to get, they can sign up for child support online services and they can print a 2-year payment record at home. But a lot of people don't have printers at home. They can call the state trust fund and request a life of case payment record and that will get mailed to them. The problem is that some people don't plan ahead far enough to wait for that to be mailed to them. They're like, oh, my hearing's in a day or 15 minutes or whatever, I need it now. Okay, $35, right? So that's the long and short of it, I guess.
I'm going to entertain a motion regarding this proposed ordinance, and then we can discuss. Anybody want to make a motion to approve or any other motion? Well, we need a motion before we discuss it, so I'll make a motion to approve the proposed ordinance. Right, yep. Supervisor Bauer moves that we adopt the ordinance. Is there a second? Supervisor Van der Millen seconds. Now, questions, comments? I appreciate a couple of things about this. Number one, government is in the business of providing service, but in a lot of cases, that service comes with at least a partial payment by the person receiving the service to get there. So this in some ways is not too far different than fire numbers or anything else. Secondly, I appreciated your comments about choices. And while those choices might not always be good ones, at least they are choices. And I appreciate that. Other questions, comments?
I suppose I can give a definition quickly. the child support agency gets the majority of its cases through a 4A referral or a public assistance referral. So somebody on behalf of their children, their household is receiving Badger Care or daycare assistance or W-2, right? So we automatically, those are enforcement cases. We'll also get referrals through direct applications for our services, right? So these non-4D cases, people are either ineligible for or have never applied for government assistance benefits, right, to supplement their household situation. And they have yet to apply for our services. That's what makes them a non-4D case or a non-enforcement case.
Supervisor Rogers.
So I guess I struggle a little bit if they're not already in the system and they're doing a good job of coming forward and paying their responsibilities. Now we're going to make them pay additional fees to do what's already their responsibility, but they're doing it on like everybody. So I'm not opposed to it, but it concerns me slightly that we're penalizing somebody for standing up and doing what's right and taking on the responsibilities that they have.
Yeah, and choices. So some people prefer the garnishment because it just, they don't think about it. You know, I do a lot of my banking through my bank, and I set up automatic payments every month, you know, on the 5th of the month, send my card payment to, you know, Chilson. They could do that, right? They wouldn't need us to send the garnishment.
So there's not really any fees that are put on someone unless they want a service for their own convenience. Would that be a true statement?
Well, if they want the services of the child support agency on a non-enforcement case. So we're not charging these fees on the 2,000 enforcement cases that we currently have. We do all of these things already. The idea of charging the fee is to help offset what we're not getting reimbursement for from the federal government, because to date we've been doing some of these things on the non-enforcement cases anyway.
The person requesting whether it's the payee or the receiver of payments, it's all on the person requesting the service.
So it would apply equally to either, you know, whether you're the payer of the support or the payee. And I guess the one thing I didn't know before, you might be familiar with the term spousal maintenance. It used to be called alimony. So those cases, if there's if it's a divorce and so somebody is paying child support and maintenance, because there's that child support component, they are eligible for 40 services. If it's just maintenance, they can't apply for child support agency services with the free application because there's no child support associated with that case. So maintenance only cases, their options are to figure it out on their own, how to make or receive payments or pay the fees. There's far fewer maintenance cases overall than child support cases, but those people, their options are a little bit more narrow.
I think I feel better about it that someone's not being burdened with extra fees unless they choose to be burdened with those fees. And they're doing it so they don't go into the system, so that they're.
Yes, there are, and I spoke to my mentor in Chippewa County, Denise Sherby, and they passed this ordinance several years ago. And she assumed everyone would fill out the free application for services. Why not? It's free. And it surprised her how many people would choose to pay the fee because they didn't want the full gamut of services that we provide. You know, oh, I don't want their taxes taken next year to pay off their debt, but I would like that income withholding to have the reoccurring payments happening right now. So it's worth it to pay the fee.
Josie, what do you think the income line will reflect in the budget if this passes? Do you have any idea?
Well, until again, there's choices, right? So I did pull some data going back 5 years and just looking at our, spousal maintenance cases, which would be ineligible, they'd be more likely to pay the fee, I guess. If we get $500, I'll be pretty pleased. Yeah, and that's if we go with the $35 rate. I'm open to if the standing committee wants to reduce that to something else,
I'm assuming that $35 number was arrived at after looking at other counties. And kind of
It
ran
was.
the answer.
All of them were 35 except for Eau Claire. Their fees were 25. They just passed their ordinance in April of this year. And when I spoke to their director, Megan Brash, a few weeks ago, they have yet to collect a single fee. And it's July. So
I would question why that payment can't be split, but at the same time for the $17 and a half, so I'm not sure that it's justifiable
split how?
between the receiver of the payment and the payer of the payment,
Right. Well, and
or the payer of the child support.
sure. And I guess our, even if it was a 40 case, whether you're the payer or the payee, everybody gets our services. We don't treat them any different than the other. So I guess it's who's the one that's asking is the one that's going to pay the fee. And if someone's standing at my counter and, well, I think the other person should pay the fee, well, go have that conversation and then give them our number and, whatever.
I am somewhat of an advocate for fathers because I feel they don't always get treated as fair as they should. I think that has changed over the
I
years,
believe it has.
and it has come a long way.
To me, it's a math, child support's a math problem. And we apply the math to income and overnights regardless of who that person is, if they're the mom or the dad. So
Other questions, comments?
well, I am just doing as our county administrator and chief financial officer asked. So, they said to identify areas of revenue and go to your standing committees. And so here I am. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll take in $2,000. I have no idea.
Does this have the potential to reduce the workload?
Yeah, I mean, so the fiscal clerk will still have to load the order into kids. That work will never go away. It would just be sending out the income withholdings, providing the payment records, and so probably very modestly. It's not going to save her a whole huge amount of time.
I'm sorry, Carol, interrupted you. You had another question?
I just wondered if this is some potential to have frustrated people that you're dealing with.
I work in child support, so we deal with frustrated people on the regular. So that doesn't, I potentially, but we don't have a case with you. So you can fill in an application, right? And then you'll have a worker that you can call or you can email, and can do all of these things for you. Currently, you don't have that, right? So that's that piece.
Sure.
Also, is it really worth the?
Could you speak into your mic
Not
more,
bringing
please?
in any more than that? Is it really worth the going through this?
Well, and I'm just bringing it to the standing committee. It's if you look in the child support funding packet, right, and all the different places that we get funding, performance funding, medical support liability funding, the 66% match reimbursement, right? There's 8 of them. This charging fees on non-40 cases is the 8th, and it's the only one that we're not currently already getting funding from. So that's why it's here. So yeah, I mean, until we actually implement it, I'm not sure how worth it will be.
I will probably not support it just because I don't see the benefit versus the added frustration it puts on someone that's trying to pay and think the right thing.
One of the things that occurs to me is that in some ways, it's a little bit a matter of equity. I mentioned before that the county charges service fees for all kinds of things that we do. And the way I look at those is, number one, are they reasonable? Do they put an undue burden on anyone? Are there options or choices? In a lot of cases, not. If we charge for some services and not for others, then I have a little bit of a difficulty rationalizing any other service charges that we make. I can remember a conversation we had about fire numbers a few years ago, and what's a fire number, $110 or something like that. And I thought, boy, that's kind of expensive. And they explained to me that putting up a fire number sign that's about what it costs. We're charging about what it costs, and these are reasonable expectations. And that's kind of the way I look at this as well.
I don't know. We're trying to offset. So our biggest source of revenue as an agency comes from the federal government's 66% match. For every dollar the county or the state spends on our program, the feds are going to match at 66%. Because my one worker does this non-4D work, we're not getting that full 66% match for her. So this helps to essentially make us whole. I don't think it's going to wash. The other benefit, and I think it touches on it in the last paragraph, more so than the fees, if we do get applications here and there, that could help our bottom line performance goals, because oftentimes these non-4D cases are middle to upper middle income payers who have private attorneys who go into court and get their orders without the assistance of the Child Support Agency Appropriation Council. So they're larger orders. They're people who are very productive members of society who potentially worked at the same place for many, many years, right? So I'll use my husband as an example. He's worked at the same place for 25 years, right? That order gets loaded in the system. One income withholding goes out at the onset and nobody's touching it again. But you still get the benefit of the collections coming in. And we do get funding for overall how we perform. So
is there other examples of when this fee will be charged other than setting up a payment, an ongoing payment structure?
So that's on the second page here. One second. Okay, so if someone needs us to do a reconciliation and certify the arrears on a non-4D case, $35. Oftentimes that happens when people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And money's exchanging hands in between the parents, and they're not sending it through the trust fund. So there's no record on the official payment record that payments have been made. And they're like, oh, wait, we paid directly. And then we have to fix the account, right? So that's what the first one is. Printed payment histories. So like I said, a private attorney stopped by our office last week, Thursday. I have court hearing in a half hour. I'm here to get a payment history, right? The Child Support Agency attorney wasn't going to be there. Nobody from my office was going to be there, but they're taking our payment record to go into the court and, submit it as an exhibit, right? And again, there's choices to get that for free if they think far enough in advance and not coming into the agency. We have to drop what we're doing on our 4D work to print a payment record, right? Go ahead, do you have a question?
On the non-4D payments or on non-40 cases, does your office have a record of those payments, or are they made
Yes.
directly between the parties?
They're supposed to go through the trust fund. The problem is even on 40 cases, they're supposed to go through the trust fund, the Wisconsin Support Collections Trust Fund, that's in Milwaukee. They receive the payments, they, it's on the account then, that $300 came in on July 26th and it got applied to this account, right? When people pay outside of that system, the payment record is wrong, right? And it's gonna show an arbitrary arrearage, and the arrearage gets big, and then interest charges, right? So sometimes they need us to fix that. That's what that would be. You want us to fix what you guys did? $35, right? And then, yeah, so a lot of this is income withholding, right? Garnishments on non-40 cases and payment records, fixing them or providing them. And whether they just want a copy or they want a certified copy. A certified copy would either be signed and notarized by myself or the fiscal clerk as being the official record.
So really two situations as applies to. One last question. So if they're doing direct payments
To the trust fund or
to each other,
Okay.
when they probably shouldn't be,
Mhm.
does the, well, I guess $35 isn't going to affect that because they're already not going through the agency, which eventually they'll realize they should.
Right. I
pay
would
the
tell
penalties.
anyone, any payer of support to never pay the other person directly. It is not in your best interest to do so.
And I feel better about it. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? We have a motion on the floor to support and recommend to the full county board the adoption of this ordinance. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Josie. Brings us to the resolution from the sheriff's office for a budget amendment. Is that what this is? Yeah, it's a budget amendment, for donation to the canine unit. Seems pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna entertain a motion, and then if the sheriff has anything to add to enlighten us, we can. Moved by Supervisor Vandermill and seconded by Supervisor Rogers. Sheriff, anything you want to say about this? Pretty straightforward and simple.
Yeah, it's actually, this one is donation to the first responder program. The first responders donated their time to work the water crossing nap, and in turn, the snowmobile club that sponsors that made a donation to the program to buy supplies and stuff.
I got canines on my mind after the webinar. Any questions, comments, anything for the sheriff regarding the budget amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, folks. That brings us to item number announcements, and then next meeting schedule. I guess under either one of those, we can talk about how we want to deal with the budget meetings next month. So I'm going to make a suggestion, and then you folks tell me what you think or what your alternatives might be. I would like to set up 2 budget meetings. Divide the time into 15-minute segments, and then have the department heads tell us how many of those 15-minute segments they would need to thoroughly review that budget. So if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't care how many ever you think you need. If we get done early, we get done early. We take a little break. If we get done a little later, then we try to make those arrangements. But I think probably better than anybody else, the department heads should be able to tell us about how much time they're going to need to do that. My suggested 2 meeting times, I've got a couple of options. One is the last 2 Mondays in August. We normally meet the last or the second last meeting in August. This would be August 23rd and August 30th. Meet at a regular 4:30 time. If we don't have any business in August, we would just have the budget hearings. If we do have business, we'd look at budgets following the regular meeting. And then the other budgets we would take up the following month. That's one possibility. I looked at the county calendar and we could do the same thing using the 16th of August and the 23rd. There are no county meetings on either of those nights. And we could do it on those 2 nights. Another alternative is we could do 2 consecutive nights. Again, trying to stick with our regular meeting night, we could do the 23rd and 24th. On the 24th, there is a PR&D committee meeting. I don't remember what time that is, but there may be some conflict there.
24th is the county meeting.
Oh, well, then that eliminates that. But we could do, say, 16th and 17th. I'm just throwing some suggestions out. The other alternative is we do just one long Mongo meeting. And we would probably do that on our regular meeting night, which next month would be the 23rd. Any preferences?
I guess I would probably the back-to-back nights are the really long one, but I would certainly go with any of the options you just mentioned.
Can you repeat that in the mic, please?
I would probably prefer the back-to-back nights or the one really long night, but I'm certainly okay with any of the options you just mentioned.
Since the 24th is not available, then those back-to-back night, and again, arbitrarily, I thought if we stick to our regular meeting night, that'll at least make it a little bit easier. So we could do, for instance, the 16th and 17th. Mike, you've already said you're leaving on the 31st, so that's not a good option. But we could do back-to-back meetings on the 16th and 17th, for example. Once we've established the dates, then I would leave it to the department heads to choose one of those. Tell me how much time you're going to need, and I'll put together some kind of a schedule. Any reaction from department heads? Week apart, back-to-back nights? I really would prefer not to do this in one long meeting. My feeling is, having done a few of those in executive, towards the end of the meeting, I don't feel like the decision-making might be as, I've seen decisions made at the end of a meeting so we get done. And that's not a good way to budget. Any reaction from departments? Back-to-back, 2 nights? And frankly, for the department, it's simple. You're only going to have to go to one of them. So we're going to do them on Saturdays at noon.
Chairman, I'm going to be at the that Drug Endangered Children Conference the 23rd, so the 30th would work better for me.
Okay, and again, we'll make sure that whatever, we'll make sure that it's going to be good. Get in the way of anybody else's schedule. My preference is the 23rd and the 30th, 4:30 meetings. Is there any violent objection to that? Then that's what we'll do. And what I will do is I will get a schedule out to the department heads. You can sign up for one night or the other. Tell me how many of those 15-minute blocks you need. I'll put together a schedule, try to make it workable for everybody. And of course, you don't have to be here for other department budget hearings, so you're only going to have to attend one. Supervisor,
Will we have any information ahead of time so we can do a little homework?
we should have all the information ahead of time, starting with the meeting on the 11th. Is that what our budget, we've got a budget workshop coming. Is that the 11th?
That's the 11th.
And my understanding is that we will have all the information we need and an opportunity to look at those things prior to getting the department budget. When are the departments, what's your schedule for having budgets ready?
They were submitted.
Oh,
They
they're
have
already,
been.
okay. Then, yeah, then we should have no trouble. Okay? Then I heard the 23rd and the 30th, of course, I heard it because I said it, which is always kind of like leaving for Paris on the 31st, so we're gonna make that an extra long.
Yeah.
You could take this
Five
stuff,
in the morning.
review it on the plane. Other announcements? Seeing nothing else for the good of the order, thank you, folks. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks to Krista, IT support. Thanks to Katie for setting things up. Thanks to all of you for being here. We'll see you.